Greetings. Great shirt.
Yeah, I love the shirt, Michael.
So good to see your faces.
Here is Farid and not Michael.
It's
Michael
Farid,
is,
not
like,
Michael.
resting. He's on another continent.
Oh, snap.
But Farid is here, and Farid is the other Michael.
Hi, Farid. Welcome. Tell us what went down at the UN.
Well, it's the best day of 2020, but that's not difficult because 2020 was just crazy. But probably the best day of the last 10 years in cannabis policy. For maybe except for you because you had a huge victory a couple of years ago. But globally, this is a huge victory for the cannabis communities everywhere. The union of people that care about the cannabis plant, that like the cannabis plant, that cure themselves with the cannabis plant, or that just believe it's not that harmful and that evil that it pretended it was. So this was symbolized by this Schedule 4 of the single convention, and we just took cannabis out of there. So it's just a great day. I mean, yesterday I was celebrating all the afternoon. Today it's better already, but yeah. I hope you have been celebrating as well.
We were all sitting here listening as well, and there was a fair amount of celebrating this side as well. For those of us who understand how big this is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the world wait and bait. So tell us a little bit about the work that goes into this sort of thing, though, because it doesn't just happen on its own.
Well, maybe for that, Farid is the best. Actually, it's great that he's here because he's been at the United Nations for, I don't know, 20 years. I was a baby when he was already over there defending our rights and pushing for drug policy reform generally, cannabis policy reform in particular because it's an emergency as well. So he has maybe he's less well known in the English-speaking world because he's French, but he's been a key stakeholder all this time. So to tell the history of how we've been there, I just joined in the last 5 years. So to tell the history, I think it's up to Farid, my friend.
Mostly, if we go back to your first question about should cannabis be scheduled, at least this question has always been there for years and years and will be there for years and years again. But if we look back at the history, for sure, I had the same feelings than you that prohibition laws are inhuman, that the prohibition laws are going against our fundamental rights. And then I discovered also the plant. And I was discovering at first cannabis as I would say kind of teenager, old heads, making his own experience. But slowly, by reading books, by meeting some people, I had to understand about the plant. And finally, I discovered also one thing is that when we talk about the laws, we talk about the right, and we talk also about the policy, the policy makers and the decision made by those political people who are obliged to decide for the rest of the world. And so it was quite a long way to get to the WHO and this scientific assessment, because before that, for years and years, it was first quite difficult to understand that those plants are not prohibited, they are under control, and they are under control for medical and scientific purpose. And if we want to address the issue, we have to stick on this and not to go on other way. And especially today with the CBD and the hemp market in development, we have lots of problem to understand that there is a difference. And the most important things that we have to know is about how the laws and how the policymakers has made the decision to put cannabis, to put poppy, to put coca leaf, to put all other type of natural drugs into a narcotics drug schedule. And mostly, and thank you, Kenzi, because you arrived in the last 5 years maybe, but you were already there to ask some question before about why we should maintain such a policy, why we should be under the rule of a plant being not allowed. More than that, you were born in a year, in a time where the world were deciding to eradicate those plants. The world was trying to target this aim of eradication. And so we came in the last 20 years, we have came from the very old cavern, prehistoric world, to, I would say, a kind of a modern world today. And just last word, this scientific assessment, at first it was Japanese that wanted in 2009 to make a scientific review in order to stop or to schedule the cannabis seeds as a precursor of the drugs. They asked WHO to make this scientific assessment over the seeds which are out of the United Nations conventions. And so, finally, WHO has done its work, which has never been done before, and this work has came to this result. And for sure, we would like to see cannabis as a plant out of the schedules and out of the UN treaties. But it's not already easy to get to this point, because even the WHO recommendation, the sixth one that was that were proposed to vote yesterday, where 5 of it were rejected. So we still have to work in order to ensure that cannabis as medicine will be available all around the world for everyone at in its stage of our pain and suffering.
So what happens next?
Well, what happens next? You know, we have a lot of struggle to make. I mean, the United Nations, you know, it's important because they are the guardians of these treaties that, you know, are ruling, I mean, on which all of the ruling, national, local, are based on drugs. But the United Nations are also supposed to be the institution on which the human rights and, you know, fundamental rights ruling, the principles of peace, development, you know, cooperation, respect among all nations, all people. That's also supposed to be the United Nations. So it's not only that we have to change these treaties because it's law. It's actually hard international law, but it's also it's, you know, hard to believe that this institution defending peace and development has been, you know, defending prohibition and eradication, which is just the exact opposite of peace and development. So we have a lot of work to do, both to change hard law, because taking cannabis out of Schedule 4 is something that it was needed to be done first. We needed to do that before anything else. You can't really do anything else without having done that before. And even on other drugs, on coca leaf, for instance, which is also a drug, herbal medicine, not harmful at all, that doesn't deserve to be scheduled as a drug in the 61 Convention, and you know, other substances, usually traditional medicines that are controlled in the Drug Control Convention. So to do anything with these medicines, or with drug policy generally, we needed to get rid of this sort of taboo of having cannabis as the evil drug in Schedule 4. So what's next? Everything. This is what we needed to do to unlock everything. So what's next? Everything.
Where are you starting, Kenzi?
If I can add something on this question, for sure now this is at national level that we have to really be more powerful in our claim to change the policy on cannabis. And at national level, I know that in South Africa you had quite a very nice success, and thank you for all you have done, because even your result in South Africa can help us in France, for instance. And we have to emphasize and empower ourselves at local ground to build national coalitions that will push for those policy reform. We have to build also some regional networks, because in South Africa there is Lesotho not so far, Rwanda, and Tanzania, and so being also able to build those coalition of pro-cannabis in South Africa, pro-cannabis in Latin America, pro-cannabis in Asia, then we will empower ourselves within the UN system, because actually we are very weak in the different regional institution within the UN. And the UN in Nairobi should be regularly visited by all African cannabis users, all those who are working closely on this drug policy reform, cannabis policy reform.
Yeah.
And another task that we could also see in the near future is mostly regarding the patients and those who are suffering. For sure, now cannabis has been discarded from the Schedule 4, but we need to empower the knowledge about how the patients are using cannabis, and all the different testimonies that can also, it's empirical, but to push for clinical studies. And this is quite very important to get those research done in the near future.
That's big steps.
What happens with THC though?
What was the question, sorry?
The THC. What about THC?
What about THC? THC is one of the cannabinoids. What it's about this one in particular. I like the others as well. No, I don't know. THC, it's we've been calling that the untapped story behind all of this, because it's really complex. I don't know how to put it clearly for all the viewers, but we have two conventions on drugs: the 61 convention, single convention, and the 71 convention. So we have cannabis and all the products of cannabis in the 61 convention. And so THC derived from cannabis is there. And then we have THC in the 71 convention. In theory, it's all THC, but just because we already have the one derived from the plant in 61, we cannot have it in two conventions. So it's only synthetic. So what that means is what we have synthetic THC in the convention, natural THC in the other convention. So that's just strange, doesn't make sense. And in addition, synthetic THC is a bit lower, so it has advantage compared to plant-based THC or plant-based THC medicine. You know what I mean? So, for instance, if you make Marino, if you make a plant-derived Marino, basically you will have more control, more international control than if you do a synthetic Marino. So the WHO proposed to put everything at the same place, which is where the plant THC is. So bring back the synthetic where the plant THC is. So that would have put everything at the same place, which for us is great. You know, we are not against synthetic THC. We just think, it should be given the room for plant-based THC as well. I mean, it shouldn't be an advantage. Synthetic, we don't care. I mean, if synthetic THC is useful for some patients, we are never going to be opposed to any medicine that can be useful for some patients. We just don't want other people to be opposed to plant-based THC, which we know can be useful for patients. So WHO proposed to put everything in the same schedule, in the same box. That would simplify, that would be great, and that would send a strong message also that we are not giving advantage to synthetic cannabinoid medicine. And the government refused, so we had all the prohibitionist countries refusing it. Russia, Pakistan, Nigeria, that's sort of okay because they are refusing everything. So it was not a surprise. But we also have the USA refusing it. That was a bit of a surprise, but not that much because they are producing synthetic THC. It's already at a lower schedule in their national schedule, in the US. So they are already, I mean, they have already a pharmaceutical industry taking advantage of having this marginal synthetic THC at advantage. So as a normal, sort of normal, I mean, at least, you know, in diplomacy, that's what you are supposed to do to defend your people and your industry. So it's sort of normal that they were opposing that just to defend their industry, their existing industry, right? At the same time, it sends a message on plant-based THC. But the big surprise for us was to see some civil society, some NGOs, joining this, opposing this recommendation. So we still, I mean, for me, it's a shock. I don't understand why they oppose a recommendation that would have, be clearly a very good message. I don't know. I'm not a conspirationist person, so I'm not going to say they are hidden interest or whatever. But I would really like to understand why some NGOs have joined, the U.S. Attitude of opposing this recommendation. As Michael was saying, to even the playing field between synthetic and plant-based cannabis medicine. But anyway, we tried. They refused the recommendation, but synthetic THC continues that advantage, but it's a tiny advantage. It's not also as if it was, legal and the other one is illegal. I mean, synthetic THC is also controlled. It's not that bad, and everything stays just like before in regard to THC. So no bad news. Just missed opportunity to send a message for plant-based medicine. And we think it's great that WHO has sent this message saying we are not going to favor, synthetic medicine. We just think cannabinoid medicine can be great. We don't care if they are synthetic or plant-based or whatever. Just, it's a useful medicine, so use it. And we missed the opportunity to approve that. So next time.
That's a very good point that you made about the difference between the THC in its synthetic forms and natural plant-based THC, because it's part of the very complex way the schedules are interpreted. And for sure, if we look at THC in itself, WHO has already issued some recommendation before. At first, WHO recognized some therapeutic purposes with THC. And so that's why also there is marinol and such medicines that are already existing. But unfortunately, the member states didn't want to allow and to, in a way, promote the use of the natural plant-based medicine, and that will be one of our tasks for the future. In the near future, we also need to emphasize the work at the WHO, the department in charge of the integrative medicine, which are mostly trying to promote natural plant-based and not the allopathic way to carry on the medicine. And so maybe in the near future also, some member states will try to push for those recommendations already made by WHO about THC to lower the level of control and to schedule it in the Schedule 3 of the 1971 Convention. And maybe it could be a way to also have much more medicine available in the pharmacy shelves.
Yes. And where can we find out more about your work and keep up to date with what's going on?
Yeah, you have this, exactly, he's pointing it perfectly with his finger. You see that he's an expert in live streaming. If you type FAAAT, like that with 3A and cannabis in Google, I'm pretty sure you'll find us. If you want to see precisely what country voted what, when, how, and this and that, all the details of this particular votation that took place yesterday, you can go on the CND monitor. Again, you type CND monitor, cannabis, and you will find it. CND goes for Commission on Narcotic Drugs. That's the commission of the UN that has been voted yesterday. So CND monitor, cannabis, you'll get it. That's
great.
CND monitor, how it was created.
Great. We do have a link to FAAAT from the international organizations on Fields of Green for All on our website.
Yeah,
we do
exactly. That's what I was going to say. I'm pretty sure if you follow Fields of Green for All and all the good NGOs in your country, if in South Africa,
yes,
you will have the information relayed when there are important news. So follow your local networks.
Great.
Awesome.
Kenzi, thank you very much for joining us. So your final thoughts on our poll this evening. Should cannabis even be scheduled at all?
No, absolutely. Cannabis shouldn't be scheduled at all. But the problem is that in this convention, at least, you cannot just, we could do that, take it out of Schedule 4, then take it out of Schedule 1. It's like if you have one chair and you take out one of the legs of the chair, the full convention is falling, including, the control over methamphetamines and stuff like that countries will never let it fall, So it's almost as if you can't take cannabis out of Schedule 1 or out of the schedules of the convention without changing totally the convention. So instead of starting to deschedule cannabis, which is almost impossible, we should really start thinking about changing the convention. And obviously cannabis would not be in the new convention.
Changing the way we implement the convention, because at least we know that cannabis has plenty medicinal potentials, and that's the purpose of the conventions, to ensure the availability for the global population to have access for those medicines that will release their pains. And so we know that cannabis has medicinal values and potentials since thousands of years, and those conventions has been established mostly under I would say, a kind of colonial racist view over the way to control those goods at time. And nowadays, we have to fight against the big pharma that are quietly deeply interested by the fact that we as a people, we can't grow our own cannabis in our garden because of the hard laws that has been implemented by our governments. But if we change those laws at national level, then we will go against a little bit against those big pharma interests. And this is also the purpose of our work. And I know that in South Africa you have done quite well, and I thank you, and I give a big hug to all the Fields of Green friends, and a special big kiss to Milton.
We will pass it on, but we need to see your guys' friendly faces here in South Africa as soon as possible, please. I demand it, in fact.
Yeah, when it's possible, because right now, as you know,
yeah, I know, as soon as the world
home.
is finished falling apart.
Strange
at least
times.
we can join you on the Hotbox. So that's great.
Please.
Always amazing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for joining us. Stay
Thank
alert.
you very much.
Keep well, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you soon.
I love the shirt.
Yeah, I love it.
Perfect.
So it's sad that it's like farmer, F-A-R-M-E-R, versus farmer, P-H-fuck it.
Yeah.
That's
Strange
But I
times.
said it's all games.
It's games.
It's games. It's not about the plant. It's games.
And the lizards are 20 moves ahead.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
It's scary.
And pocketing, dude, along every
And conniving,
step, yo.
and scheming,
Yeah.
and backhanding.
It'll always be about money.
No.
Yeah, guys.
We're
Funny
pawns
motives.
in their game.
Funny motive, eh? So what my only thought that kept going through my head
What
though
is this
is
damn called?
the
Conspiracy
UN.
theory?
It's called JFK. So my only thought is maybe the UN should really all out commit to this and even go extra, hey? Yeah, you're sitting at home, next thing you check the choppers pulling in, doing emergency drops of crates of weed. Oaks running up to your door. Excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am. We're just calling to make sure you got enough marijuana.
That would be the day.
Imagine.
Yeah.
I'd be so happy.
Dank aid.
Yeah.
I think all that really they need to do, and maybe it's just the mischievous me, is like when they're getting all together at the UN, and you know when you have a conference and you always get your coffee or your tea with your little biscuit on the side. Like really, we need to infiltrate the caterers and just medible the fuck out of everybody. Not badly, lightly, enjoyably, so that they can understand
Like an inverted
why
MK
this
Ultra.
needs to be a real thing.
Oh, guys. That was awesome. Also, big thank you to you, Oaks and
Yeah.
Molly, for pulling it off, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
Shane.
spontaneous,
Great
but
guest,
worked
information.
dope, eh?
Yeah.
That
Not
was-
gonna jinx it, nothing crashed.
Yeah. Shane, we spoke to Kenzi yesterday after the vote, and then he said he's going out drinking, and I only got a hold of him like at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So, yeah, it's been going well over there.
I see the chat's kicking off there. Thank you very much, Oaks, eh? I don't know if we're going to say hi to anyone tonight because it's so weird on the new channel, figuring it all out the first few dates.
Subscribe.
Like,
Yeah.
share, subscribe.
Unfortunately,
Hashtag
we couldn't
Hotbox
do
Show on the
Facebook today.
socials.